It's one of those wonders of the world, I think. Welcome back to Freedom One Garage. This is the old Marvel Schebler updraft carburetor. You see these on thousands of vintage tractors, machinery, some cars, but tons of tractors. They're seen all over the tractor community. There's basically a big version and a little version. That's the way I view it anyway. But this one came off of a 60s something Oliver model 66 little tractor. It belongs to a customer, and the tractor stopped starting. Customer thought it was electrical, and he did have a little bit of an issue with his coil that we're also addressing. And the reason I don't have video here is this is a service call. We don't haul tractors here to the shop. If we can get to them there, we'll work on them there. So this gentleman lives just a few miles away, and so we got the spark all figured out, and then the fuel line was just full of rust and some water. That's what was full. That was in the fuel line. So obviously I've run this through the parts washer once already. We're going to clean up this little brass tag here. That's really cool because that'll have the exact number on it. We're going to clean that up, see if we can find a kit, and we'll go through this, do a little, bench top rebuild here, and show you it's an updraft. So this hangs below the intake, and if you're running an updraft, you have to have an engine that's pretty healthy, because the vacuum on the intake stroke is what pulls your air fuel mixture into the cylinder and through the intake. So but pretty cool setup, very reliable setup. We've actually have a small version of this carburetor on our tractor, and you guys have all seen how good that starts once we got the spark issue sorted out. So we're gonna pop the cover off of here, though. I imagine we're gonna see some gunkety gunk in here, and we want to get the number so we can get a kit, and then we're kind of set this aside for a day or two unless we can get a kit. Sometimes the local Baumgars, Orscheln's Tractor Supply, they have some of this old tractor stuff, and we might get lucky and find one hanging on a peg hook. First, let's figure out exactly what we have, and let's see just how nasty it is inside this thing. We did put a fuel filter on the tractor, and we pulled the fuel line off of here. It's like this, and it pushed through a whole bunch of gunk and rust and stuff before the fuel cleared up. So this thing's full of rust and gunk. Now, weird, because the tractor did have a fuel filter on it, and not it appeared to be a fairly decent little fuel filter, but maybe it came apart inside or whatever. What likely led to this tractor and no start issue and this carburetor filling up with gunk and water is this summer he had a wheel rust through, and it was kind of a unique wheel. We had to help him find one used, and so the tractor was down, I think it was like June-ish, May or June. Tractor was down and sitting out. It sits outside, but it wasn't getting run regularly. You run a little bit of water through your fuel and survive, but if tractor sits out for weeks on end, I think probably about 8 weeks, probably about 2 months, it was down and sat outside. So that's a recipe for rust to build up in the tank and gunk to get into the fuel lines and all kinds of stuff. So start your stuff once in a while, I guess, is the moral of that little story. Really easy. 4 screws, slotted screws. Let's do that. Oh gosh, you guys, look at the water coming out of there already. Yeah. And it'll have a float. Yep. Okay. Oh, I think our floats might be compromised here. Nope. Nope, it was just leaning on it. Okay, let's get this number cleaned off of here. Golly. It's gonna be bad. Okay, this is pretty cool. You usually don't find these with a legible brass tag on them yet, but this is TSX 374, and then it has a 60 underneath of it. That 60 might be like a year of manufacture. I don't know, I'm guessing. I'm just trying to make this interesting for y'all. But yeah, we've got some rust on our floats. The floats are okay. The Venturi is in good shape. These old carburetors, you know, nice brass Venturi. We'll take, we gotta get that pin out of there, but here's what we're dealing with. That's just rust, and it's actually, I would guess, 50% water, 30 to 50% water. So let's get that dumped out and see what else is down in there. Okay, not a lot of gunk, but I'm going to revise my water ratio guesstimate to 70% water. And when we get back to this tractor, we're going to have to take a look at it, because it's been really dry it hasn't hardly rained the last couple weeks or month probably. So I don't know why, how, or when, or who, or how, or why, or when, or how water could have gotten into this thing. But we're gonna break it down here a little bit more. You can get the throttle shaft out. We can take this drain out here, and yeah, we'll get her cleaned up. But so yeah, we'll start here. There's two slotted screws in this holding this butterfly in here. Yeah, just a little bit of Loctite on them, feels like. And little lock washers on them, that's handy. There we go. Yeah, I don't think Loctite, I think just lock washers. Okay. And then we'll take this screw out. This is your choke hook up here. Take that, and then we should be able to pop that oh, and we gotta slide it. There we go. That's our choke plate, and it has a little burp button here. Kind of cool. So if you have the choke closed, it can still pull a little bit of air through there. And then this is our choke shaft. The nice thing is, a lot of these kits for these, they'll just give you a new shaft and a new choke plate and a new throttle plate. So we'll have to see what this one ends up having, but oop, I don't want to mess our spring up here. So that's that. And really, you don't get to take anything. Well, we'll take this drain out. have a half. Yeah, she's nasty. That's about it, folks. Now, top half of the carb, here's our needle and seat and our float assembly. Kind of like a lot of other carbs, you got a brass pin holding it together. The needle was not stuck in there. It actually doesn't look to be in too bad a shape. And then we should be able to get our seat out. Here's our gasket between the bowl and the top of the carburetor. And then we should be able to take our mixture screw out. We'll see how many turns this is in or out here. Half. Oh gosh, it was only screwed out about one turn, so you know I'm a 1.5 to 2 turns type of guy. But that's in good shape. And we'll do the same thing with this butterfly assembly as we did with the choke. 2 screws. These have star style lock washers on them. The other ones, the choke butterfly had actual little lock washers, the little slotted kind. See? And then this plate isn't sandwiched in the shaft like the choke plate is. It just lays on top of a flat spot on that butterfly. And then you have to, because it'll only go, there's a little bit of a chamfer on each side here, so it shuts well within the throttle bore. You have to make sure that you know the orientations of this piece. So this came out just like that. We'll set him aside too. And then we can take our main throttle shaft out. There's a little gasket there. You know, really not in too bad a shape. We've got a little bend in the linkages there. And then, if I have a decent screwdriver, we'll get the seat out. So we're going to get the seat out. We are not going to get the main jet out. We'll just have to clean that really well. Yeah, there's gunkies on there. So, yeah, just dirty and rusty and watery. And again, I don't know how it could be so watery because it hasn't rained in a long time. There's also a number in the casting here, if you can read that. It says 227209. So we're going to look all these numbers up and see if we can get a kit. In the meantime, we're going to do a preliminary clean with some just spray cleaner and then put this in the soaker and get her cleaned up a little bit. We're going back together with our Marvin Schebler carb. Our TSX, what was it? TSX 374 is the number that's on, yeah. Now, what you may or may not know, and what I believe to be the case, is there's basically 2 main versions of this carburetor. One is a large body, which is what we have here. The other is a smaller body, what you'll get on 8-in, 9-in tractors, and what's actually on our Massey outside. I'll show you. I can get light out there and make it so you can understand. Hang on. It's in the evenings. It's like 7:30, so you know summertime's coming to a close. I hate when it gets dark early. I just want to keep working, and daylight really throws a wrench in things. Anyway, let's go out to our Ferguson. Also almost said Massey Ferguson. So That's a Marvin Schebler carburetor. On the Ferguson, on the small engines, here is the larger size Marvin Schebler carburetor. So that's your difference. That guy versus that guy, if that makes sense to you. I hope it does. So the different models, the different numbers on the tags and that kind of stuff. So there's going to be different jetting. Ooh, that looks weird in that light. There's going to be different jetting, sizing, venturi sizing a little bit, and that kind of thing. But for this particular rebuild, we don't need the jets in the venturi. Our venturi is beautiful. We don't need any of the hard parts. All we need is a needle and seat, and those are pretty much universal. Small set, large set, right? Some of the O-rings, gaskets, and that kind of thing, which they all have the same ones for the most part. Ours does have a choke, so we have two shafts that we have to seal up, and we've already actually have the choke shaft in here with a fiber bushing or washer sealing that end of it. We got to put the butterfly in that, and then we'll use a new rubber seal or O-ring gasket type thing to seal the throttle shaft. But we're not changing, I can't point and hold at the same time. We're not changing the jet. The venturi's good, so there's no reason why we can't go. And in this case, if you live in or close to the heartland and you have, say, a Baumgars or an Orscheln's and or a Tractor Supply, they've got this stuff. You got to go kind of in the back, but you can get old tractor parts at these stores, and that's exactly what we did. We actually ended up buying two kits. The first is for a TSX 679 or 813, and it's got the right gasket size, and it has, you know, most of the bits we need. And then we found another one. I think that came from Orscheln. And then we went to Tractor Supply just to kind of kill some time, and we found another one on sale that also has bits that we can use, and it says TSX 245, 475, and 530. So it may be a little more applicable. But between these two kits and less than $30, especially because the one's on clearance, we're gonna get this thing back up and together without special ordering a carb kit through, you know, the Irish Parts Store, the Napa Valley, or something like that. Yeah, Tractor Supply, Orscheln's, Baumgars. They're almost, you know, to Menards level as far as cool and places to go to get oddball stuff and find your parts that you need, especially for these old tractors. Let's go ahead and throw the rest of this back together, and then tomorrow we'll do a service call. We'll go out and get this Oliver back up and running. So like I said, I went ahead and threw the choke shaft in here. We do have to install the butterfly though. This guy to go in like a lion. Oh. There we go. When this is closed and you're choking, that flat part of that disc and this valve on the inside, the choke can pull on that, and there's a little spring here, so it can burp air into here and get you to start if you need it. pretty much done with the bottom for now. Now we're on to the top. We have our main throttle shaft here. Make sure that when you set this, your idle screw, you're here and you're not, you know, like here, because that's not going to work. So get your idle screw stop and your other full throttle stop on either side of that cast piece on the top of the carburetor. Before we throw this in, we're going to take this over to the vise and straighten out that bent arm. Run this guy back in here. There. Oop. See, I did. There we go. Like that. Let's take some turns out of the idle screw so we can flatten out that area where we got to put those screws in. Bring this back. We'll come out about 2 or 3 turns here, and then that allows us to get our screws down into that throttle shaft better. Now this shaft is not, it's half moon. It doesn't have a slit in it, so the butterfly goes on top of the flat metal and then screws down. And there's a big side and a little side. It's not centered within the bore. You just take a pick and you get her straightened away. Out, half, 1, half, 2. You have a big end to your venturi and a small end, if you can kind of see the difference there. Take your gasket, make sure you got the right one in the kit. Match up your holes and everything. Life is pretty good there. Your gasket's going to go on, and then your float assembly and the little shaft that it rides on. So what you end up with is this. Okay. And then the last part of this that's just a little tricky, like I said, take your venturi out of the bottom half of the car, or bottom body of the carb, where you had it just kind of sitting, and because you can't smash the top of this through this gasket, you're going to take your venturi and bring it up and go through the gasket with the small end. So you end up like that. And now we can take the bottom part of our carburetor, flip it over, and put it down on top. And now that venturi is seated back into that recess where it came from. So some of these things are kind of unique, kind of perplexing, but not as perplexing as like when you get to the end of a tube of toothpaste, and either whether you use the roll-up method or the squeegee method to get it to the end, and you think it's going to run out any day, somehow there's always more toothpaste in there. And you can go like 6, 7, 8, 9. You can go a long time, it seems like. And I don't know. I think it's a little bit magical almost. How much toothpaste is left in the low end of that toothpaste tube. If you tap the keyboards, let me know if you agree. That's one of those wonders of the world, I think. Okay, we got a choke. We got throttle. That pin's gonna go in there. And life is gonna be pretty darn good. That's the rebuild of the Marble Schebler carburetor. It doesn't take a lot. Now if you have to start doing Venturis, sometimes those Venturis will crack, and then you got to start really finding a complete kit that has some of that hardware in it. But if you're just cleaning up gunk and dealing with a stuck needle and seat or something like that, hey, head to the farm store, get you an off-the-shelf kit, save some money, save some time, and go through and rebuild it that way. Tomorrow we're going to run out and do a service call, get this guy installed back on. We may or may not get to have video of that. It just depends. We appreciate people's privacy and that kind of stuff too. So we might have some video of us putting this on and getting the Oliver running again. Otherwise, we will see what goes from there. We did find a really nice, again at the farm store, decent choke cable for pretty cheap, and it's nice. I like it because it's got shielding over the metal winding. It'll be a lot less susceptible to water getting in there and rusting and that kind of thing. It's a really nice little choke cable, actually. County Line makes this stuff, by the way, is the brand name of some of this stuff. You got County Line, and then also Calco on this kit. So kind of the same thing, but maybe different too. But we're going to do a choke cable. We're going to do the carburetor. We've already got a coil on the rig, and we'll get this tractor up and running so he can get some use out of it around his farm. We'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some footage for you. Hey, sorry, no video of the carb install on the Oliver, but runs great. Starts nice. I did actually back the mixture screw out about a turn, and that's where it was happy once I got up to temp. So, but that tractor's back on the road and still running strong. I don't know exactly what year it is, but it's in the 60s. But hey, I hope you got something out of that. If you have any questions, comments, as always, tippy tap the keyboard, and we got more coming. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. See you on the next one.